Welcome to Walking the Earth podcast, where we follow the journey of my friend, Mike Margulies, and his travels around the world. I'm your co-host, Justin Castle. We left off with Mike in Hampi, India.
That's right. Yeah, let's get right into it, man. I guess first and foremost, though, let me say Happy Diwali.
Thank you. Happy Diwali to you. I'm sure.
And I'll come back to that one.
Okay, I don't know what it is,
but it's the Festival of Lights here in India. It's a 5-day festival. The biggest day was a couple days ago. I'll come back to that, though. It's been like a whole month, I think, since we last recorded, so I'll try to fill in the blanks first.
Well,
and then that's a little hint, foreshadowing of what's to come ahead.
Tarantino, this mother.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's been a month. There's been a hiatus due to my relocation to New York City. I'm now in Astoria, New York, which is in Queens, right across the river from Manhattan.
Man.
Thanks, man. It's been crazy, and today is actually my first day, or was my first day of work in my new job.
Nice.
Thanks. And I know you've been all over the place.
Plenty. Been everywhere, and I think
in a month.
One thing that we'll have to do with this is kind of abandon the play-by-play aspect of it. I'm not going to be able to give every single detail of every single story I've gone through in the last month. It's because while you're traveling, imagine when I remember being back home, right, and some story would happen over the weekend, and that story would be the thing that would be the story for the next week or couple weeks or something like that. While you're traveling, that happens every day. And so I have now another month worth of those stories. So it'll be literally impossible for me to tell every single story of what's been happening. But I think I can still give a pretty good overview of what's been going on and tell the highlights. And then also I have some interesting, I think, new observations on cultural differences and that kind of thing.
Great.
But I was in Hampi when we left off.
Is that how you pronounce it? Hampi, or?
I think that's the proper way. Yeah.
Hampi.
That's how I've heard locals pronounce it.
Duly noted.
And
long A, Hampi.
Yeah. And I spent about 2 weeks there. I loved it. I think on the last episode that we recorded, I talked about how I had this spark of creativity. I was writing music and poetry and all this stuff.
Yep.
I really loved it. And eventually it was time to journey onwards. I think I mentioned how I broke my phone, my Galaxy S3.
Yeah.
I just dropped it and broke the screen like I do with many of my phones.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it wasn't a big deal because I was in Hampi loving my life at that point, just hanging on mountains and writing. And I didn't need a phone at that point. But after a while, I decided, well, this is also my camera and my MP3 player and blah, blah, blah. So I decided to go to Bangalore to try to get it fixed. Bangalore is another big city. And I thought I would be cute about it. While I was in Hampi, I went to a Samsung store and they said it would cost 7,000 rupees, which is, I don't know, like $116 or something to fix the screen. I thought I could be cute and find somebody in Bangalore that would do it for cheaper. And that was a mistake. Basically, I arrive in Bangalore and I am crashing with this girl, Joanne, that I had met previously in Mumbai through couchsurfing. She's living in Bangalore and had been in Mumbai for the weekend, like my first week in India. So I crashed at her place, and she and her roommates were like, oh yeah, go to this place called SP Road to fix your phone. And so I go to SP Road, and I met this guy who seems trustworthy enough to me, seemed like a genuine guy.
Oh,
he said
boy.
He could fix it. Huh?
Oh boy, here's the setup.
Yeah, it was, dude, I got conned like none other. I have never been so horribly conned in my life. I just got taken for a ride.
The second you set that up, I was like, yeah, you got screwed.
Yeah, no, it was awful. This guy seemed, it makes me feel shitty because it makes me realize maybe I'm not as good at reading people as I thought I was.
Oh, God.
But this is just an example of how you have to be on your guard around here. There's a happy ending to the story, though. in that I learned a lesson. So that's how I take of it. But
it's kind of like a
anyway,
Family Guy episode. Everything goes to shit, and then you learn something somewhat.
I learned something today. So yeah, this guy seemed good. Like, he could fix my phone. As it turns out, it wasn't even going to be that much cheaper than if I just went to Samsung. But at this point in time, I had already. I'm not going to tell all the details. It's kind of a long story, but I had ended up somehow being at his place for several hours because he left. I thought he was coming right back after he fixed my phone. He said, "Oh, it'll be a 2-hour job," but as it turns out, he didn't show up back until several hours later. Blah blah blah. I leave my phone with this guy, and I call him back a couple days later, and he's saying, "Oh, sorry, I didn't get to fix your phone yet. There was a big flood, and I lost everything." At the time, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I hope everything's okay." In reality, this guy was just completely bullshitting me. This kind of thing happened for like several days until finally I went back there and I made him, I could have taken my phone back, which I should have done at that point. But the guy said, "Oh, definitely I'll have it on Tuesday, or I'll have it in 3 days for you." So I said, "All right, that's Monday, right?" And the guy says, "No, Sunday doesn't count. It'll be on Tuesday." I leave town for a while, though, while this is going on. And I decided to go to a few other places nearby to Bangalore while my phone was supposedly being fixed. So I went to another city called Mysore, and they had this big parade there, which was really cool. I actually ended up running into this group of French students that I had previously met in Hampi. Just randomly found them in Mysore. And that's actually something that started happening a lot in the later part of this trip. So the first 3 weeks of traveling, it was all new, all fresh. But then I start running into the same people in different cities because now I know people, and either I intentionally meet up with them or bump into them randomly.
That's kind of a nice. It's kind of a nice thing being in another country and not knowing a soul, but having kind of reoccurring friends.
Yeah, well, after being here for several weeks, you build a network of people, and a lot of the travelers are on similar paths. So
right,
that's real neat. And it turns out these guys that night were going to another place called Uti. So I spontaneously on the spot decided to join them. I went back to my room, grabbed my bags, and hopped on a bus with these guys. And we went to this place called Uti, which is in the mountains. And I wanted to go there because I had previously heard about another nearby place in the jungle. It's called Masinagudi. No one ended up coming with me to Masinagudi because it was cost prohibitive, I guess, for most folks. But I decided I wanted to go. I had heard from someone I met way back in the beaches that you can basically live in the jungle on this. I don't know if you'd call it a resort, but it was. We call it a resort for lack of a better word. In the jungle, and you go on these tours. It sounded really neat.
Right.
Kind of expensive though. It was 2,000 rupees a night, which is like $32. Which actually I guess sound. If I'm telling you that, you're like, what? $32? And that's for your accommodations, for your food, for the tours, for everything, all inclusive. $32. So talking to someone in the U.S., it sounds like that's nothing. That's peanuts, right? A hotel room anywhere costs more than that, much less a hotel in the jungle with food and tours and all this stuff.
Well, I guess you're on a budget, though.
Well, for a backpacker, that's a lot. Most of the hostels or guest houses, rather, that I'm staying in, the one I'm staying in right now that has Wi-Fi in my room, hot showers, clean bathrooms, big bed. This costs me 200 rupees a night, which is like 250 or something.
Right.
So 2,000 rupees is actually
relatively is a lot.
Relatively speaking, a lot of money. But anyway, so I tried to get someone to join me. No one wanted to join, but I wanted to do it, and I had time to kill while my phone was supposedly being fixed. So, I go to the jungle, and hanging out there for a couple days. It was neat. Got to see all kinds of interesting creatures. There's tons of deer just right outside where you're living. These spotted deer.
Are they mutant deer? Are they?
I don't know. They're spotted. I don't know.
They're mutants. They're mutants.
Maybe.
Or they're cousins. They're cousins. Cousins to the.
But yeah, something like that.
Native North American deer.
And there's you'd see boars and monkeys and wild cats, all kinds of interesting animals.
Did you feel threatened by any wildlife at any given moment?
No, not really.
The spotted deer didn't threaten you?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm just checking.
But there were some spiders in my bathroom, though, actually. So I did feel threatened there. I opened my bathroom, and there's this spider just hanging out on the bathroom floor. And I was like, oh, shit, is this guy poisonous? What's going on here?
Yeah, it's probably scary.
I grabbed this hose, and you have the shower's kind of like on a hose, so you can move it around. So I grabbed it and I sprayed the spider down the drain. Probably I thought it wasn't the most zen approach, but to kill this spider for my own comfort. But it made me feel better.
Good.
I think he came back though. Well, there definitely was another spider that came back, and then the original one also came back because he was missing a leg originally, and then there's another 7-legged spider came back.
Old 7 legs back. Old 7.
I think that they weren't poisonous though after all, so it's no big deal.
Oh, okay.
But it's just the classic tale, the itsy bitsy spider. He came up the water spout, and then down came the
rain
Mike with the hose and washed the spider down. And then the sun came and dried up the rain.
And he came out again.
Yeah.
That bastard.
But it was cool. The guy who kind of ran the place, so he was a friend of the dude who told me about it.
Okay.
When I was on the beach. His name was Arun, and he also was an engineer, and then he decided the jungle was calling to him, and so we kind of connected, and so that was neat. He actually, as it turns out, told me I'm staying as his guest, so the expensive 2,000 rupees wasn't an issue after all.
Wow.
Which I wasn't expecting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that at all, but it was nice. It was really cool and nice of him. But we got along real well because we had a lot in common, so we talked about a whole bunch of things, ways we saw, the world and whatnot. Although I didn't. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to know where he was an engineer. Was he from the States or was he from another country?
No, he's from India.
Oh, okay.
He's from India.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, I didn't stay that long in the jungle though because I did spend some time hanging out with this guy Arun, and we made a good friendship, but. A lot of the time I was there, I was kind of just by myself. I was just hanging out in my room, and I guess I was getting a little bit lonely. Now, on the one hand, there's something to say for being alone. You need to be comfortable being alone and be able to kind of just smell the roses, right? Look around at the forest and enjoy yourself. And I think with time, you get even better at that. But I decided that it wasn't the experience I wanted at that moment in time. And that's kind of a running theme, actually, of what my backpacking travels have been like. It's stay in a place until you decide it's time to leave. So wherever I am, if I'm feeling like, oh, this place is amazing, like I felt in Hampi, okay, there's no rush to leave. I'll just stay there for a couple weeks. No problem. On the other hand, if I'm feeling, this isn't the experience I want at this particular moment, then I leave. And so at this particular moment, I was feeling lonely a lot of the time. So I knew it was going to be a weird conversation with Arun to say, hey, I've only been here a couple of days, but I'm going to bounce. But I have to do what's right for me. So I told him hey, this is how I'm feeling right now. It was no problem.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
he sounds like a very laid-back individual.
Yeah. No, it was cool. It was a cool experience, though, being in the jungle. I just decided right now I wanted to be in a more social atmosphere. There will be a time and a place where I will need to be by myself. Actually, I don't know if I've talked about this yet on the podcast, but I've signed up for a Vipassana meditation course. Have I talked about this yet?
I don't believe so. I could be wrong.
Basically,
but go for it.
Well, just if I did, it'll be a little bit repetitive. Oh well. Basically, I'm going to have 10 days with no speaking and no eye contact.
Yeah, I remember now.
And just meditating. I may have talked to you. I probably talked to you about it at least.
I think so.
But that's coming up at the end of this month, and it's the kind of thing where, I actually had to apply for it in advance. I hate having plans, but this is one exception where I have to have a set date for something. Actually, the course was not even open to more registration. I had to email them and say, "Hey, here's my situation. My visa's expiring. I really want to do your program before I leave the country." And they found a way, I guess, to get me in. So I have that coming up, and that will be an extended period of being okay with being just with myself.
Yeah.
So I figured that'll be the time for that.
10 days. 10 days.
Yeah, dude. It's going to be really intense. I'm not taking that lightly at all.
It's going to be mentally trying, I'm sure, man. Well, if I could, for the listener's sake and for my own sake, I would like to talk with you directly beforehand and directly afterwards.
Yeah, no, we can do that. I think that'll be a good idea. It's going to be tough. I know it's going to be really, really tough. One of the toughest things I've ever done. But the hope is that at the end, the reward is all worth it. So I don't know exactly what's going to change in me when I come out of it, because you can't possibly know that until you do it. But I have this sense that if I can go through that experience, from everyone I've talked to who has done it, they've all said that, you transform essentially as a human being, and you're able to be just more in control. I think that'd be good. So we'll see what happens. It
sounds very interesting. I'm excited. I'm nervous for you, but I think it'll definitely be life changing.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, everything else has been, so why not one more thing?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, at this point, I go back to Bangalore. By the way, this whole time I was traveling through, I was only spending a couple days in each of these cities. I went to Mysore, Uti, Masinagudi, while I was kind of waiting for my phone to be fixed. I keep calling the guy, and I'm like, "Hey, so what's the status?" And every time he's got a new excuse, like, "Oh, well, sorry, I have it fixed, but I just don't have it in my hands yet. I have to get it." The next day I call, and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have it, but it's a festival right now." It's just taking me on a complete run. Or taking me for a ride. Anyway, I go back to Bangalore to resolve this, and I also decided I wanted to go to North India before the Vipassana. So that's at the end of the month, and I have 1 month, and I've only been in South India so far. So I wanted to go see a little bit of North India before that. So I figure Bangalore is a good place to fly from. So for all these reasons, I head back to Bangalore. And this time, I actually ended up staying with my friend Venkatesh. He's the guy who told me about the jungle experience in the first place.
Okay.
So I had met Venkatesh originally in Gokarna on the beach in the beginning of my trip. Venkatesh had told me about this jungle experience, and now that I had done the jungle, I had been in touch with him at this point. So he lived in Bangalore, as it turns out. So I went to stay with him. I arrived in Bangalore actually on my birthday.
Nice.
And when he found out it was my birthday, he didn't know. And then he asked me at one point, "How old you are?" And I said, "Well, I guess as of an hour ago, I'm 27. So,
yeah, buddy.
And it was nice. He brought out, he just got some rum out, and we had some rum and Coke, and he had a little impromptu dessert with his candle in it. And so it was real nice.
Awesome.
They put together a thing for me. And they were awesome. Venkatesh he's also someone with a kind of similar background where he was working, I think, for IBM, and he decided to quit. And now he just did a lifestyle change, quit his job, and now he's doing photography and journalism, and he's getting by that way.
How old is Venkatesh?
He's in his 30s.
He's in his 30s.
Yeah.
You want to know an interesting thing is but in our month hiatus, I was talking to my friend who worked for my previous employer, and which I just left a couple weeks back. And he said that his close friend actually did the same exact thing you did. And actually, I think you know him. I don't know his name.
Yeah, someone messaged me on Facebook. It was Ben Berardini's. Yeah.
Yep. And
So Ben is he was also at Exxon around the same time as me. He quit his job. And he's in, I don't know where he is right now, Europe or Southeast Asia.
I don't know, but I'll find out.
No, I'm gonna meet up with him at some point in Asia, I think.
Wow,
we've been talking about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it was random. I was telling my friend about our podcast, and he said, "Oh, wait." He felt like he heard that before, and he said, "No, my friend just did that." And I said, "No, my friend just did that."
Yeah, we both did.
And you didn't coordinate it. It was just happenstance, right? Or
No, we did. Yeah, just coincidentally, it turns out we both had the same idea.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something there. I wonder if it's the high stress of that business, but I don't know. It
happens everywhere, man. There's people doing it all around. It's times that they are changing.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
Bobby D. Yeah. All right. So
anyway, at this point I'm in Bangalore, and I'm staying with my friend Venki, and he basically was my saving grace and helped me resolve this whole thing. I go with him back to this has now been 2 weeks or something later that they've had my phone, and I show up with him, and only because he was there, really, it was the only reason this got resolved. And basically these guys, I learned later, had not done any work on my phone the entire time. They were just banking on me giving up and leaving, keeping my phone, keeping my 3,000 rupee deposit, just screwing me over. This guy, and every time I see him, this guy's like, "Hey, Mikey," trying to be like my friend or something. And he's just this two-faced son of a bitch. They bring when I show up, finally he says, "Oh yeah, we'll bring your phone. It's on the way right now. It's in traffic. It'll be here in half an hour." It doesn't show up for another hour or two because they just at that moment in time started working on it.
Wow.
So 2 hours later or whatever it is, they show up with my phone, and the phone is completely jacked up. The screen is now not completely black. It's now a functional screen, but it's got cracks in it, and the vibrating feature wasn't working, and the case doesn't snap on completely. They fixed things like the vibrating feature, but the case still didn't completely snap on, and the screen wasn't. It was like he fixed my screen by replacing my broken screen with a less broken screen.
Wow.
And he still wanted the full, whatever it was, 8,000 rupees or something for it. And it was a situation, man. This story epitomizes in many ways the chaos of India. It's not like in the U.S. you walk into a store, a silver player store, and okay, this is understood. I give you my phone, you tell me a date, I come back to pick up my phone on that date, it's fixed, I give you the money. That's done. It's just way more crazy here. If someone tells you a date, that really means a week after that date, and maybe this guy is just scheming on you, and he's trying to take your phone and your money.
Right.
And it's just what I should have done in the first place was gone with a local, one of my friends like Venki, to try to figure out getting my phone fixed. Lesson learned.
Yeah, definitely.
At the end of the day, though, I had a decision to make. It was either he's going to give me back my old screen and probably fuck up my phone even more in the process of putting it back, or I pay him some amount of money and just take the shitty repair job. I was advised to take that option so he wouldn't make the phone even worse. So I ended up paying like 6,000 rupees. So that's $100 or something for a shitty repair job. The phone works now, but it's got a cracked screen. The back doesn't come on completely. It's not really fixed the way it ought to have been fixed.
I gotcha.
But like I said, I think this it sucks, but at the end of the day, I'm taking this as I think in the future this will pay dividends as far as the lesson it taught me.
Yeah, don't trust random people.
Yeah, about who to trust and how I have to be careful of even someone who seems trustworthy. You know, they could be scheming.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from this, and it makes for a good story. So, so I got something out of it at the end of the day. That's what I try to take. As a traveler, I knew going into this whole thing that kind of thing would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
you just didn't know in what form it would show up.
Yeah, exactly. I knew when I was coming to India, something would happen. I would lose some money. I would get screwed over some way. But you have to just, ride the wave. You can lament on these things for a long time and be pissed off about it, or you can just say, okay, well, I learned a lesson and move on. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
You know what? Got a phone working now.
Well, I think that's great. And go ahead.
I guess I was just gonna say how this story also it also epitomizes another part of India, which is just the diversity of the types of people that you meet. So you meet such amazing, wonderful people. Like when I was in Mumbai, if you remember, I talked about Arindam.
Yeah.
And when my friend Samar got sick, he helped us navigate the hospital system. And he was just going above and beyond what anyone should do as a couch surfing host. And then my friend Venki, and he, spent his whole day with me trying to resolve this crap. And he had me stay at his place and helped me celebrate an impromptu birthday celebration. And just these super nice, amazing, wonderful people. And just people you meet in the streets that are just so warm and positive. These babas you meet, and babas kind of like, I don't know, a monk is a good word for it. These dudes that in Hampi, they were the guys that were living in the caves, and I'd just go hang out with them for a while. There's all these warm, amazing people, but at the same time, there's these guys like the cell phone dude who are just the scum of the earth out there just to screw people over.
Yep. Yeah, you never know.
And India is just this crazy place because it's not like you can describe to someone what are Indians like. There's no such thing because there's cultures within cultures within cultures here, and they all speak different languages. Even within the generations, it's different. My friend Amit was explaining to me how he can meet an Indian guy, and that guy is just as foreign to him as he is to me, depending on if he's from a different place, he speaks a different language.
Wow, yeah. That's completely...
And even within a generation, I was crashing with some other friends, and their go-to language when we were hanging out in social settings was English, but their parents don't really speak English, so we'd be in their house, and there wasn't really English spoken. So even within the same... just between generations, within the same family, it's massively different.
Yeah.
We think of the U.S. as a diverse place because we have all these different colors of skin, but ultimately, the U.S. is not, besides superficially, it's not that diverse. We're all speaking the same language. We all have pretty much the same cultural identity.
Well,
whereas here it's like, there are differences, of course, culturally within different groups in the U.S., but
yes,
it's massively different in India. Just the different types of people,
and that are native to those areas.
Yes, even within the same city of Bangalore, you'll find every type of human being.
Do you know do you want to know something that's interesting? Is that coincidentally, I went to one of the least diverse areas in the country, Syracuse, New York, to Astoria, New York, which I don't know if I've told you this, but I don't know where I heard this from, but apparently it's one of the most diverse areas in the country, and possibly per square foot in the world. There's over 180 different dialects that I've been, according to what I've been told, that are in this neighborhood alone, and everybody gets along well. and actually has a very low crime rate in this area. It's one of the safest neighborhoods. And I walk down the street. I don't understand anybody. No. I mean, they all speak their version of English, but it's going from Syracuse to this area has been one of the most. It's just drastically different. It's very, very interesting, and I'm sure it's yours is to what you're saying is even more extreme than what I've gone through. Absolutely, without a doubt. Majority of people don't speak your language, but
most people speak some English, but
Yeah.
not everyone does, and they speak it to different degrees, and it's not necessarily everyone's first language for sure.
Yeah.
It's weird. Well, for some people, English is like their primary language. Some people here, that's their go-to language. But it just depends what class you're from, what area you're from. There's so many factors that go into it. But there's like 6,000, something absurd, like 6,000 languages in India.
Wow! Holy crap!
It's absurd, man. And there's sub-dialects of languages, and it's madness. But that's India for you, right? It's this chaotic, crazy place. The traffic I talked about in the first episode, that is very representative of what the culture is like. There's no lanes. In the U.S., you've got lanes. It's very ordered and structured. And here, everyone just drives around. Everyone's driving, and everyone's on top of everybody else. And it's really kind of indicative of what it's like just walking around the streets, too.
Yeah.
I kind of likened it to, that's an interesting thought I had recently where, if you look at the human brain, you've got the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. And the left side's where you're very logical and it's ordered. And then you've got the right side of the brain that's more creative side and free and more chaotic, you could say. And if you thought of the human species as one organism and on the planet, you could think of the Western world as being the left side of your brain. Right? And you could think of places like India as being the right side of the brain. And in a way, maybe that's what we're doing, as a human species. You've got...
It's possible. We're aligning in different ways.
You got people like me who go to crazy... Sorry?
We align in different ways,
Yeah.
Just like positive and negative, negatively charged particles.
Yeah. I think both sides are important. So you've got... And you'll have, people that go to India or places like India, and there's all this chaos, and you're going to experience the good, the bad, the ugly, and you have to filter that and figure out what's good, what's bad. But if you can navigate that madness, you can take yourself down the positive path and take something back, because there's all kinds of sparks of creative, amazing things that come out of this chaos, and so. It's just like your brain, your creative side of your brain. If you just let it go wild, you'll think of a lot of ideas. Some of them are crazy and dumb. Some of them are really brilliant. And then you can filter them and boom, make something great out of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a thought I had recently.
That's a very interesting thought, my friend.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, Mikey, we should stop right now. We're at right around 40 minutes.
All right. Yeah, we'll pause this. I guess we'll resume. So to be continued.
All right, everyone.
Episode 5.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in to Walking the Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Justin Castle, along with Michael Margulies. We will tune in to you next time with episode 5. Thank you.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Indeed. Everyone, take care.